And I stood up and went to take a step, and the floor wasn't where it was supposed to be. It was like a vibration inside my ear. And the worst brain fog you can imagine. I was crawling around the house. I was crawling to go to the loo. I was crawling downstairs to help make my kids pack lunches in the morning. I couldn't sit upright at a table and look at anyone. Anyone that was moving around me, anyone that walked past me, all the symptoms would heighten. I remember sitting there alone with my legs like hanging off the side of the bed thinking, I can't be like this. I won't survive. There was Vicky before dizziness, and then there's Vicky now. I was putting so much pressure on myself. You have to be this confident person, and it's all an act the whole time. Now I feel so much more comfortable being myself. I have a life again. I can be a mother. There was a time where I didn't think I could be a mother. You will get better. I promise. If I can do it, and you can do it.
Hello, Vicky. It's so good to see your face. I have missed you, and this is awesome. I am so excited to share your success story with the world.
It's so good to see you. It's been a long time. It's been a couple of months in the waiting to get this done. So I'm really pleased that we're finally doing it.
Same. And I was saying before we started recording that sometimes it's good that it's been a long time coming, meaning you've been living your life. We haven't seen each other for a while because you're doing great. Those are all good things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's get started with just asking you to share a little bit about yourself for people who are listening or watching.
Okay. So I'm Vicky. I'm 44. I live in London. I grew up here, London born and bred. I love it here. I am married. I have 2 children. I have Max, who's 9, and Xanthi, who's 7. They are both at school all day now, so I feel like my life has kind of relaxed a little bit from the early days of motherhood, which were full on. My mother lives in Florida, which is lovely. So I get to holiday over in beautiful Florida. We just spent Christmas there, actually. And oh my gosh, it's hard to leave and not kind of leave without saying, should we just live in Florida? What do we do? It's like pouring with rain in London now. I'm like, oh, we should be living in Florida.
Right.
So I feel very lucky that I have that kind of every holiday, which is nice. What else? I was a teacher. I left school and I was a teacher for a while, teaching little kids, which I loved. And then I worked in a little boutique shop at the end of my road, which was also really, I loved it. I got to know everybody in the community and made a real home for myself here in London. And then I got pregnant and I worked all the way up until I had my first, Max. And that's that's about it. And then I've just been a mum ever since.
Well, just a mum in terms of job description, which obviously is in and of itself a full-time job, but that's not all you've been dealing with over the last few years.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I also want to note for the audience that you just talked about flying over to Florida from London as though it's just a thing that you do because this is just a thing. Yeah. That was not so easy for you a few years ago.
No.
So why don't we start from the beginning of this particular story? So when did things start to, I'm trying, my mind is saying go wrong. I don't know if go wrong is the right word, but when did the symptoms start to show up, I suppose, is the question I'm asking.
Yeah. When did my world suddenly change dramatically? Yes. So I'll try and kind of say it as smoothly as I can, but I might jump around a little bit because there's a lot and it was a little while ago. But I would say when I was working, before I had Max, I was working in the shop. Max is 9 now. So I would say 10 years ago, I started to get upper back pain, shoulder pain. It was always there. And I was like, I can't stretch it out. I went to see osteopaths and all that. And I just thought it was a pain in my back. I didn't think anything of it, but it was always there. It never went. So I had that for about 2 years before anything happened. And then about 2 weeks before everything changed, I had a fullness in one of my ears. And it kind of felt full. It felt like it was constantly moving. I find it hard to explain. It was like a vibration inside my ear all the time. And I had that for 2 weeks. And I had that once or twice before for a week or so, and nothing came of it. It just went away. Anyway, this time, when was it? Beginning of October 22. I had a normal day. It was a Friday. The kids got back from school. We were in the kitchen. They were settling down for bed. I sat down on the sofa, felt completely fine apart from the ear kind of thing. And I stood up and went to take a step, and the floor wasn't where it was supposed to be. And I had that once before in my teens for about 4 days. I would wake up in the morning and I'd be like, oh, everything just feels a little off. By the end of the day, it had gone. Oh, sorry. Doorbell and dogs.
Real life happens.
Yeah. He'll stop in a minute. And so, yeah, anyway, the floor wasn't in the right place. So I kind of had that feeling before. I panicked because it's a horrible feeling to have. And I went to bed that night terrified, really. I didn't want to lie. All I had at that point, symptoms-wise, was the floor feeling. And it was also in my arms. Like if I moved my arm, it felt like it was being pushed back the other way, or it was moving through mud. Or I went to bed that night, woke up the next morning, and everything was moving. It wasn't spinning, but it was this. So I was lying in bed, and anything I looked at just had this vibration. So that just progressed to get worse. Any movement that I made, if I sat up, if I tried to stand up, it would get worse. So I just lay still for that whole weekend. And then probably a day or two after that is when I got a head pressure. It wasn't a headache. It was like my head was in a clamp. And the worst brain fog you can imagine. The only way I could describe it actually to my husband was, when you stand up too quickly and you get head rush, and everything, you can feel it coming on, and it sort of grips your head, and your eyes you go a bit blind for a minute. It was like that the whole time. I had that pressure and the whooshing almost in my head. And that was constant. I had that constantly. And then it just got worse and worse and worse in the following weeks from that. In between these things, I had gone to see doctors, but symptoms-wise, it was a constant rocking and moving. I had 3 very small episodes of what I've learned now was true vertigo, where the room spins and I was falling over. But that I only had that 3 times, and I think even though they felt like they lasted too long, I think they only lasted maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds at the most. Thank goodness. Other symptoms, I couldn't sit down at a table. So doing what I'm doing now, I couldn't do that. I couldn't sit upright at a table and look at anyone. Anyone that was moving around me, anyone that walked past me, it would, all the symptoms would heighten. Any mirrors or shadows, any shadows that I wasn't expecting, or if I walked past a mirror, that would send everything it would send me back to bed all day, basically. I had my actual eyes, it was like a delay in my vision. So I would move my head to look at something, and my eyes, they felt like they couldn't catch up. I also felt my eyesight got really bad overnight. It was like I couldn't focus properly on things, or I was seeing through a fog. So that was it was all really, really scary. Things like yawning, squeezing my eyes tight would send all the sensations crazy as well. Taking a deep breath, I couldn't do that. So I effectively lay down in my bedroom for weeks because anything I did would just send the dizziness crazy. I couldn't eat. That was a really big thing for me. I couldn't make that the movement of putting my hand to my mouth. So I just stopped eating. And that was also really scary because I'm not a big person. And so that was a big problem for me. What else? I couldn't read. I thought watching TV and reading, I could watch TV better than I could read. So I could just sit and I would put Friends on and almost just listen to it to kind of it was comforting just to listen to that. We all know Friends and we've all had it in our lives for so long. I couldn't really watch it, but I would have it on in the background in my bedroom. And that kind of helped me forget about everything that was going on. Concentration. That was the other big thing. If I had to concentrate on anything, like if somebody asked me a question and I had to think about it, it just would, the spinning would get worse and the movement and the pressure. So my husband, who was amazing throughout this because he had to pick up the kids and drop them off at school and do all that. But he didn't know what days they needed to wear their normal uniform, what days they needed their sports uniform, what times they needed to be picked up. And he would ask me these basic questions. And even though I had done them 2 weeks previous for the last 4 years, I could not remember what days they needed those things, what time they needed to pick up. I just couldn't find those memories. It was a weird time and a scary time. And I think it's hard for, I don't know, if other people's husbands or people close to them have experienced it, but it was very hard for my husband to grasp because I wasn't able to explain to him either all of these symptoms. A, because it made me feel even worse when I was doing it, but B, I couldn't find the words to talk about them, to explain them to him. And I had a bit of, later on, I started getting like dissociation, which I didn't know what that was at the time until I found you. I'd be looking at my children and think, where have you come from? Like, who are you? Like, when did this happen? I would look at them and go, it was scary. And I felt quite, that was one of the scariest ones for me where I sort of almost didn't know them. But it would be moments of that. And then, an hour later, I'd feel back to normal with that. But I had that on and off for a little bit. What else? Just general kind of, I had to sleep. I couldn't sleep in my own bed. It got to a point where I couldn't have anybody sleeping next to me or on the bed with me because that movement would send everything off. So I went and slept in my son's bed and he slept in my husband's bed with him. And it was hard. The children want to come in and say goodnight to you and I couldn't have them touch me. Anyone touching me or moving me. It was awful. So I slept in his room for a couple of months. And in his bedroom, he has a blind that has animals on it. And I would look at these lemurs, which are on his, and I would focus on these 2 lemurs sitting on this branch, and they would just do this the whole time. They would be moving. They'd be the moving lemurs. And I remember I'd wake up every morning and look because I wasn't lying down flat, so I'd be sleeping upright, and I would open my eyes and look at the lemurs and they were still moving, and I was like, oh, I still got it. It's still here. Yeah.
God.
It's a lot. And the sounds,
Yeah.
loud sounds, anything like that. I couldn't be near any kind of overload of noise or anything moving a lot. I couldn't be near any of that. So all the senses, basically.
Everything was
off.
so sensitive. So
Yeah, sensitive, exactly.
yeah. So sounds, vision, movement, everything was just dialed up.
I couldn't talk on a phone. I couldn't speak to any doctors on the phone. The sound of it being in one ear would throw me off. And yeah.
So the experience that you're describing, I know that people watching or listening to this are relating hard to what you're describing because they've had the same experience, but you had never had this experience before, really. Obviously, what you're describing is what I often summarize as disconnection from sensory reality. I think that sums up the experience, but it doesn't. Of course, it doesn't really explain how nightmarish the situation is. But that's the term that I use. So you're experiencing this for the first time. You're a parent to two very young children.
Yeah.
You're like, what is going on with me? But you can't even find the words to describe what's happening. So how did you react to this? What did you do?
I'm an anxious person. Like baseline, I'm anxious, I think, most of the time. So this, and I have health anxiety, I've always have. So this really, it terrified me. And the first doctor I went to see, I remember she took my blood pressure and she said, it is really high. And she said, do you have a blood pressure machine at home?
Oh no.
And weirdly, for some reason, I did. I think my mother must have left it behind or something. So I was like, yeah, I do. So I became obsessed with taking my blood pressure at home. Lying in bed, I would take it every hour. I had to Google I didn't know what the numbers meant. I ended up Googling them. So I was on the phone to the doctor 3-4 times a day saying, oh my God, it's gone up this high. What do I do? So my reaction to it all was pure panic. Like I couldn't stay calm. My heart rate, I feel, was just racing all the time. It was horrible. Just panic.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I really can't imagine someone not panicking in the situation, but we're already starting to point at some of the things that were probably turning the volume dial up rather than down at the time. So, okay, so you were talking to your GP, I imagine. At some point, did you start to get sent to specialists?
Yeah. So the Friday that it all happened, that Saturday, I amazingly got an appointment with the GP in the morning. But I remember going into her. Oh God, just the effort to get to the doctor's office. I mean, my husband was like carrying me down the street, and I got in there, and having to sit on the chair and speak to her, it's so hard. And she's sort of sitting there waiting, and I'm like, I know, I'm trying really hard to kind of get out what's going on. Anyway, she said, I think you have BPPV. Are those the right letters?
Yes.
And I need to do an Epley maneuver on you. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but then it will be fixed. And I was like, I didn't want her to do it because I didn't want to make it worse. I was like, it can't get worse. You can't make it worse. So she started doing it, and I panicked halfway through and said, no, you've got to stop. I can't. Cause she's throwing me about. She's like pushing me down. So I said, no, thanks, halfway through. And she said, right, well, I can send you to it was like a private A&E department. I can't really remember, but we went there, and the doctor I saw there, he was so lovely, so patient, so calm with me. And he took blood, he did loads of tests and said, I think you have labyrinthitis. I hadn't heard of that before. And I said, right, well, give me some antibiotics and let's get this sorted. And he was like, they won't work. And I said, no, but give them to me, please. I need something. And he was like, well, he really didn't want to, but I forced him to give me antibiotics. And he said, it will be 6 weeks before you see any change. And I sat there, I remember sitting there alone with my legs like hanging off the side of the bed thinking, I can't be like this for 6 weeks. Like, I won't survive 6 weeks like this. Why does nobody understand that I can't? But he said, don't worry, 6 weeks, you'll be all better. So I went home. He gave me some eardrops as well. I went home and those 6 weeks became like I was counting down the minutes almost of the 6 weeks. And in those 6 weeks, I didn't see any other doctors because it was labyrinthitis. I was Googling it. I was, and then I know. But I knew I shouldn't, but...
What were you supposed to do?
I couldn't, I needed more answers. I needed to know exactly what labyrinthitis was. And I was Googling people who had had it and how quickly they got better and whether it lasted longer than that. But 6 weeks became my timeline. And in those 6 weeks, I think through Google, I don't know why, I started deciding that this had happened because of other things I had done. So I started blaming it on two particular things, which then in the long run have been quite hard for me to not blame it on those things. But I was grasping at straws and I didn't know. I needed reasons. I needed something, why this weird thing had happened to me. So I'm always embarrassed saying them out loud. One of the things I blamed it on was I would sleep with one of my earpods on the sound cancellation or whatever it was. I would sleep with one of those in. Purely so on the other ear, I could hear if the kids needed me. But I could listen to a podcast and I could also hear if the kids needed me at night. And I thought, well, I must have damaged something by doing that. Maybe I've set something off balance and that's why all this is going on. The other thing I blamed it on was about 6 weeks before all started, I had Botox. And I thought, oh my God, it was that. That's what's happened. It's come and it's traveled down into my ears. And that's what's caused it.
I'm so glad that you're mentioning this because I get asked about those two things all the time.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
It took me a long time to admit those things out loud to people.
I'm so glad you did. I was hoping you would. I wasn't going to push you to because I know this part of the story. But I'm so glad that you mentioned it. Thank you. There are going to be people who hear this and cry and know that they're not alone and that they didn't damage themselves and that's not why this has happened.
Oh my gosh. I went deep down into Googling Botox and it traveling and moving around your... It wasn't healthy to do that at all. I shouldn't have done it. But I was grasping at straws still because I was still in that 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Anyway, 6 weeks came and went and I was at the same level. Nothing had changed. If not, it had got worse. I hadn't left the house in 6 weeks. I was crawling around the house. I was crawling to go to the loo. I was crawling downstairs to help make my kids pack lunches in the morning. I still couldn't go from one side of the kitchen and turn to the other side without holding on to everything. And all the time my children are watching me and they're worried, they're worried about what I'm not able to bend down and hug them. I'm not able to really move my body any more than this. So it was hard for them and it was scary for them to see me like that. But 6 weeks came and then I was like, I need to go and see some more doctors. So that's when all my kind of medical stuff started with all the testing of everything. because I still
Okay.
needed those answers.
Well, I don't know that anyone in your position would have done anything differently. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I see people show up on the channel and they're like, hey, listen, I had this happen. I'm pretty sure I know what this is. Do I have to get testing? And I'm like, how do I answer that? Because I see you're about to tell us how helpful that testing was.
Yeah. So let's start with, I'm so grateful that I had the testing, that I was able to have the testing, and all the doctors were there to give me these tests. Because they came back with answers. You know, the answers were everything's fine. But I was grateful to have had them. So it started with, what did I start with? I think the first thing was I went for, I think I had an MRI first. I think it was the MRI. Anyway, if it was, I went for the MRI. That in itself was, I'd never had an MRI before. But to get me to lie flat in a tube for half an hour, they were amazing, those nurses. They reminded me of like midwives, because they were so patient and so kind with me. And just like to take my rings off, I couldn't do that. I was like, I can't, I'm too dizzy to take my rings off. They were so wonderful. Anyway, so I had the MRI. Everything came back clear on that. So I felt kind of deflated, but pleased, but frustrated, all the feelings, because nothing, they were like, you're fine, everything's fine. I went back to see my GP after that to discuss those results, and she said, there's nothing, you're going to have to learn to live with it, basically. There's nothing.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
Already.
like, this is it. This is your life now, and deal with it. And she said it in a kind way. But anyway, she also said that I could go on something called beta histamine,
Beta-histine. Mm-hmm.
that's the one.
Yep.
I don't take paracetamol. I don't take it's the health anxiety thing in me, I think. When I gave birth, they offered me paracetamol. I said no. Oh, I can't take a paracetamol. So for me to take anything, it needed to be bad, and I started taking these pills. Honestly, I don't think they made any difference, but I think just knowing I was taking something every day helped a little bit, like mentally maybe. So after the MRI and all that, she then they did at one point try to put me on antidepressants, which is something I've never struggled with before. I've never been depressed. I really didn't want to go on them because I knew that wasn't the problem. Like, that hadn't caused the problem. And anyway, I took one of them, and I didn't take another one after that. It made me feel it wasn't for me. Then they sent me for hearing tests. So I went for some hearing tests. That all came back fine. Everything was normal. And all these tests, like, you go in and you have to sign something. I couldn't sign. I couldn't sign my name. Oh, so my husband had to come do it with me, and yeah, it's a really scary, sad place. And they're in the middle of all these doctors' offices, and you just can't even sign your own name, and you can't talk to the doctors, and you can't explain anything. And they're just sitting there, like, looking at you, going, explain. And I'm like, I can't explain to you what's going on. Then I went to an audio vestibular. Does that sound right? Something like that.
Yeah, like a vestibular audiologist or a vestibular specialist. Mm-hmm.
And she said, she was the first person that said to me, I think you have vestibular migraines. And instantly I was like, but I don't have it's not a headache. It's not like a normal headache. It's just a pressure and with everything else. And she said, I think it's that. So I'm going to send you to a vestibular therapist. And I went to see her, and she Oh no, before I did that, sorry, before I've left out the maybe worst thing I've ever done in my life. They sent me to have a rotary chair test.
Yep. I'm glad that's what they should have done.
Okay. Well,
right.
they did that.
But they did, I assume. And that was
yeah.
not a good experience. Yeah.
No, that was, I don't know if I hadn't heard of it before, but what it is it's a it's a chair that they strapped my head to and my body, and the chair is in a box basically that they close you in. It's like a cupboard. They close you in it, and then they spin the chair around, and then they stop spinning it, and you have to look. It's complete darkness in there, and it made me more dizzy than I had ever been before, and I was kicking. I remember I was kicking the walls, saying, "Get me out! I can't. This isn't helping me. I don't understand how this is going to help me." Anyway, I came out of that, and the doctor who was so patient with me, he did say, "Children do this, you know. You can do this. I have children in here every day doing this." I'm like, but they're not spinning, like they're not dizzy like I am all the time. So that was another failed test that I couldn't follow through with. So there was a lot of me thinking, because I'm not doing these tests properly and I'm not able to finish them, I'm failing myself here, and I'm not getting the results because of myself, not because of the doctors. I'm not finishing the tests. So I did worry about that a bit. But anyway, so then I went to the vestibular therapist, and she gave me the exercises where I follow my finger up and down, bounce a ball, and they were like the Bible. I followed these exercises 3 times a day, every day, for about 4 months. And nothing ever got better. But I kept on doing them, and I would go back and see her. I think it was once a week I was seeing her. And she would give me slightly different ones each time. And she started acupuncture as well, which I again, I couldn't go through, and she would try it. And I don't know if it was because I was lying down and the concentration of all, I didn't want her to put them anywhere near my ears. No one was allowed to touch my ears or anything around there. It just seemed to make my symptoms worse, maybe because I was focusing in on them whilst I was having the acupuncture. So I think we did 2 or 3 sessions of acupuncture, and then I was like, no, I can't do that anymore. Those kind of were all the tests that I did. Yeah, that was it. So when I got to the reading the cards and we're following my finger, and still a couple of months of doing that, nothing got better, and I was still Googling. And then I found you. So when I found...
You were months in. I mean, so you...
I was about 8 months in at this point.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I was about 8 months in.
8 months with basically no answers and being told we're going to help you learn to live with it, or did the vestibular therapist give you a better outlook than that?
Yeah, I do want to say that it was the most lonely time in my life. Like, I have never felt sadness like it. To the point where I was thinking the worst thoughts you can think. And I think that just comes from being so lost and helpless. And to me, I was the only person in the world that had this. I had not met anybody or heard of anybody who had had it for this long. It was either, oh, it's PPPD, it will be in the mornings. And I know somebody who does that. It's labyrinthitis, it will be 6 weeks. it was none of those things, and it kept going. So I was, in my head, I was like a medical, like nothing had ever happened like this before. So I was very lonely, and I did have awful thoughts. But it was my only way of thinking, this needs to stop. I cannot carry on like this. So that was my lowest point, and it was horrible. It was horrible. But as I said, at 8 months, I found you came into my life, and it changed everything. It was, I remember the day so well.
Do you remember what video it was that you saw first?
Yes, I do. I saw, the first thing that came up was Whitney's success story. I remember her so well. I remember it like it was yesterday. And then from her success story, I went onto your whole YouTube channel, and I would watch your sort of short videos of you sitting in like a gym. Yeah, that's what I remember. And I remember you talking through everything, and I was like, oh my God, this is me. She's finally somebody in the world is describing what I have had for the last 8 months. And you and Whitney were the two first people. Oh, I can't tell you the excitement. But then I couldn't get excited because getting any kind of emotion caused the dizziness to get worse. But I remember telling my husband and saying, oh my God, you will not believe, I have found somebody. I found somebody who understands and knows about it. Like, she's explaining my symptoms so beautifully, which I haven't been able to do for 8 months. So I made him sit down and watch the videos. But yeah, so.
Wow. So, okay. So I think many people listening or watching this are familiar with the initial, oh my gosh, I'm going to learn everything as much as I can, and I'm going to watch all the videos. So at what point did you say, okay, I need to do something with this? I can't just learn about it.
Pretty quickly, actually. I was, after watching Whitney's video, and it took me a long time to watch that. Like, I couldn't watch it in one session. It was too much visual and sound and everything going on. So it did take me a week to watch her video. I'd have to like dip in and out of her videos and then some of yours. But I then went onto the Steady Coach, and joined up on there within. Yeah, I think that I probably did that within 2 weeks of finding you. And I remember the first meeting I joined, and there was only about 6 people in that. And I think that particular day was a funny day because normally there were a lot more people, but for some reason that day there was only 6 of us, which was so great for me because I was really nervous about, I hadn't done the whole like group, like a Zoom thing before, and I didn't know what to expect. And so actually that worked out really well for me. And I still remember everybody that was in that little group. But yeah, so then I got onto your Tuesday night sessions quite quickly. And I looked forward to them every week. It's like, it's almost Tuesday. So yeah, I'd say in about 2 weeks I was on your channel from.
And for me, I always tell people, especially when they leave the group, when they're they're graduating, I'm like, I wish I could play back a montage of you on your first day, and then you sharing progress and success, and then now you today, because it's like you're a completely different person than you were back then. I mean, you're just not even the same person. It's like the same face, but I'm like, this is not the Vicky that I met on day one.
No. Yeah. I think you must meet a lot of very almost like shadows of themselves. They're just you're yeah, you just, everyone's been through so much, and then they find you, and so much hope then is there, and just you're ready and waiting to devour it all, to
Yeah.
understand how to get better.
Well, that raises a question for me. So, because you're a doer and a fixer, right? You here you were in bed, barely able to look out of your eyes, and you're still Googling and trying to figure things out. So
Yeah.
when you joined the coaching group and said, okay, I'm going full force, this makes sense to me. First of all, did you have any doubts that this applied to you?
Yes. I was still adamant it was a physical thing. I was like, I had done this to myself. This, of course I've done this to myself. Otherwise, how else would it suddenly appear? And I was still very much on the earpods and the Botox thing. But also, I had never heard of any, no one had ever spoken to me about mind, body, or, emotions, or anything like that. But even when I heard about that could be the reason, deep down, I was like, that's not the reason. I know what the real reason is. So that part of it I found quite difficult to change my mindset in that way, because I'm stubborn.
Great. I'm so glad we're speaking about this, because this is a, as you know, a major obstacle for people. So what helped?
Initially, what really helped was just sitting in your Tuesday night sessions and listening to other people and listening to them being coached. That really helped me, because I would see from the sort of 2-hour session, you would start coaching somebody, and I would see their mindset at the beginning, and then at the end, it would be completely different. And what's great about those sessions was I was able to sit there, listen to you coaching somebody, but almost imagine you coaching me. And then slowly I would feel things starting to change. I would come out of that Zoom session thinking, actually, I do feel a little bit better. I feel a little bit looser and lighter, and I can access emotions that I didn't even know I had. So I was learning that it's really hard to explain. I was learning that I had these almost trapped emotions from years and years and years and years, from my whole life, really, that I had never accessed or felt. But as soon as I was able to feel some of them, it all sort of started rushing out. And that definitely, I then started seeing improvements in my symptoms as soon as I was able to access those.
Wow. Okay. So let me point out a few things here. So one thing I think is magical about the group is what you just said, that you go in there and no, you're not the same person as all the other people there, but you're in there and you're like, why are all these people so much like me? You find so much in common, and it's not just the symptoms. There are some eerie similarities sometimes, and you're just like,
yeah,
how did that's odd. But even when not, people's experiences overlap so much that just as you said, when I coach someone on one thing, even if it's not exactly the thing in your life, if you sit and listen, you're really being coached too. I'm speaking to you too.
100%. Yeah.
So to dig a little bit deeper, though, I think this is what people are going to be super interested in hearing. Would you like to share any specifics about what you were feeling, or what started rushing out, or how it started rushing out? Because people are always asking me, okay, so what did people actually do? Like, what did they feel? What did they think? What did they engineer to start feeling better? And it's a hard question to answer.
It's a hard question. I'll try and answer it. If I start going off in a different direction, like, correct me. Okay, so you put me in contact with Pippa.
Mm-hmm.
And Pippa has this ability to speak to you and get you talking about things that I haven't. It's like I didn't even have a memory of it. It was so odd. But she would somehow get me talking about my childhood, which I don't have memories of my childhood really. Like, my sister has incredible memories about our childhood and remembers everything and is constantly saying, "Oh my God, how can't you remember that?" Da, da, da. I'm like, nothing, absolutely nothing. So Pippa would get me find these memories, and I would say, "Oh yeah, there was this time where da 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 da." I remember that. I don't remember it being a bad memory, but I remember it. And then she would basically, I could feel inside my body where the memory was almost. And we would talk about what color it was. And it was all it was very slow and calm. And once I was imagining the color of the emotion of this memory, then suddenly everything starts rushing out. Emotions I didn't know were there, but they were really strong emotions. And they were obviously ones that I have been holding in forever, which all made sense as well, because my childhood was, whilst it was amazing and privileged, and I was it was a happy child, a very happy childhood. There were aspects to it that I think I had pushed away. I was sent to boarding school very young. But my feelings on that growing up was, well, how lucky was I to go to a lovely school and, have great friends. And that's how I was sort of taught. Well, I was so lucky to get that, and not everyone gets that. Instead of, I really missed my parents. I had no relationship with my parents because I was at school all the time, and it was boarding school. It was I came home every 3 weeks just for a weekend, and
wow,
there was a nanny at home looking after me, and then I would go back to school. So I didn't really see my parents. I also have a parent with an addiction. And that also was me sort of growing up saying, "Oh, but that's all I've ever known. It's fine. I don't, big deal, whatever. I'm fine." So I spent, I think, my teenage years and 20s saying, "But I was so privileged and happy and given so much, and I mustn't feel anything but happiness." So Pippa managed to find that actually underneath all that, which I really truly believed was real, like I truly believed I was happy in it. I just sort of sailed through it all. She managed to get these emotions out of me just by sitting quietly and thinking of memories and feeling what emotions came up. And the best way of doing that for me was imagining myself as a child. So I would imagine myself as a 6-year-old child, maybe being dropped off at school, or a memory, not imagining, sort of a memory of myself. And then me as myself now would go and comfort that 6-year-old child. And that was what really got the emotions out for me. And I felt like I was feeling emotions that I should have felt then, but I didn't because I wasn't allowed to. And that was a game changer for me. That kind of therapy really, really helped.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Beautiful description. Beautiful description. I have a few things I want to say here. So just an interjection for people who are listening, who are now thinking, okay, so what I need to do is purge all my bad memories. Like I need to find all my bad memories and feel all the feelings forever and ever and get them all out. And once they're gone, once I'm empty of all feelings, then I will recover from dizziness. So to counter that, I want to ask you a couple questions, because obviously what you're describing is a necessary and huge component. You had immediate changes in symptoms once you started doing this. But
Go ahead. They were immediate, but they weren't big changes.
Right. Right. So there are a couple other components that fit with this that lead you to recovery. And it sounds like there was somewhat also more practical things about how to respond to sensations, how to respond to the health anxiety, how to respond to doubts in general. I know when you and I got to coach you and we talked about doubts very specifically. Yes. That was I remember that. Yep. So working with doubts specifically, that wasn't, oh, I'm going back to my childhood and feeling this. That was, what do I do with doubts when I have them now? How do I relate to doubts now? So that, and then also, so here's the thing I've been thinking about lately, Vicki. I've been thinking, what am I actually accomplishing when I'm helping people feel an emotion? Some of it is just pressure valve, like a tea kettle, you're letting out pressure. But some of it's also changing the person. So I'm curious to know retrospectively, if you look back and say, it was good for me to feel those emotions. That changed something about me or the way I relate to myself or my life. Can you identify any of those things? What changed in you from feeling those feelings?
Yes. What changed? So I definitely realized I was putting so much pressure on myself. For as long as I can remember, there was always a pressure to be not myself, basically. It's that simple, really. It was don't be the shy person that you actually really are. You have to be this confident person, and it's all an act the whole time. Try and act cleverer than you actually are. I think all these things come back from my childhood and insecurities and everything. So those things have changed now. I feel so much more comfortable being myself and thinking, I don't care anymore. Like, having lost that constant worry and, oh God, what are they going to think of me if I don't get the answer to that question right? Or, I have changed that. And just by letting all that go, it's just let everything, just the pressure, life just feels like it's meant to be. I can't find the words. It just feels loose and natural and easy to get through rather than tense and worried the whole time. So I've definitely learned that I need to just be myself. And if people don't like that, then oh well, move on. I've learned a lot about friends. I've learned who my friends are through this, and the ones that are important as well. So I don't worry about all the silly worries I had about whether people like me or, that has been a big turning point for me. And in that, it has changed every aspect of my life. Like there was Vicky before dizziness, and then there's Vicky now. And they are two very different people. And occasionally Vicky before dizziness, sometimes I'm like, oh, let's, I'll do a bit of somatic tracking or something, and that kind of gets me back into it. But yeah, there's definitely two different people before and after.
What a beautiful answer. Oh my gosh. what you just described, I'm going to translate it into my silly stress bucket metaphor. This is what it looks like when the stress bucket drains and you get all that sticky stuff out of your bucket, and you can just live in flow. You can live in flow, and that means you have capacity. Stress happens, things happen, but you're not constantly living on the edge of disaster because you're not living that way anymore. And it sounds like what you're describing is sort of an effortlessness to this. I'm not saying life is effortless, but it doesn't sound like every day you're like, okay, I've got my 5 things and I better practice self-compassion. And I've got to really make sure that I'm being nice to myself. And I've really got to make sure that I don't let other people's judgments bother me. It's not like you're trying. It's just changed.
Yeah. It's just changed. Exactly. And it, I think when something as scary as this dizziness thing happens to people, it does change you as a person, because you've been presented with suddenly everything being taken away from you. Everything. Like, my life changed in a second. And that makes it a bit easier then to look at your life differently and think, hang on, what was I doing before? That something wasn't right there. Let's change that and feel things in a different way. And I wouldn't have been able to do any of that without you and Pippa showing me how to do that. And it's a work in progress. I still, I have weeks where I don't do anything dizzy related. Like, I don't listen to any podcasts about it. I don't read any of the books. And then I might get a moment of stress, or my stress bucket overflows, or, everything's suddenly... Like, I flew back from America just after Christmas and I had a little dip then, but I knew why. I knew it was because I was tired, I was stressed, my hormones were all over the place. I knew, I was like, oh, that's okay. I know, I'll just take it easy. I will dip into a few of my audiobooks that I like to listen to, and your videos, the calming voice, your voice sort of takes me into like, it's okay, Dr. Yo's here. And do a bit of somatic tracking, and that gets me out of my dip. And the dips are never as bad as the first time around. Like, they're never as bad.
So tell me if I'm right. It sounds like it's gotten to the point where now it's like, I'm not trying to call dizziness a pleasant experience, obviously, but it's kind of like, it would be similar to you're jet lagged, your hormones are all over the place, you're tired, and you get a headache that lasts for a day or two, and then you just get better. It sounds like it's on par in intensity with that, rather than a chronic dizziness issue that you're stuck with for weeks and months that's debilitating.
Yeah, exactly. And it'll be a sort of, I will have my back, I will start to feel it in my shoulders again. And that's sort of like, oh, I can feel it. And then I'll have a sudden moment where the world suddenly moves, but it's that. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. I know why it's there. It's obviously there because the kids are screaming. I've got the dogs barking. I'm trying to get them off to school. Of course it's there, There are other moments. I had one last week where I woke up in the morning and I was slightly back in the trampoline walking, but I didn't panic. And it's very hard not to instantly panic in those moments, because you wake up and you go, oh, what's happened? But as soon as I calm my heart rate and think about why it's there, it all makes sense. I go, of course it's there because I went out to a dinner party last night. I was going through social anxiety at a dinner party, meeting new people. I went to bed late. I'm up early. The kids, I've got all this stuff going on today. Of course it's there. And of course it's a little bit worse, but it's not going to stay because I know how to get through it and I know why it's there. Mm-hmm. So those, that really helps.
And for people, I think there's a couple things. So before I get to what normal life is like outside of dips, I'm curious, let's just help people understand the timeline, because this is another question people ask. So this all started in 2022. You found me 8 months later. You came into the group. How long till you started seeing a change?
So October 22, by April 23, I think that's around when I found you. 2 weeks after that, I was on a plane traveling to Florida. It wasn't perfect, but I did it. There was time before that. I couldn't leave my bedroom. So in that way, it eased. It was all still there, but it was gentler. So I was able to kind of be out and about. But by, I think, what was it? 22, 28, 23. I would say by beginning of 24, no, not 24. Hang on, where did we start? 2022.
Mm-hmm. And then April, you found me. May, you're starting to feel.
So the whole of 2025, so last year, I was pretty good. Mm-hmm. I felt like life had got back to normal. I could do everything by myself again. I wasn't like worried about going out anywhere. My life had got back to normal completely by beginning of 2025. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm 26 now.
Yeah.
Even in 2024, it was fine, but the doubt was still there. There was a lot of worry still, a lot of nervousness about maybe doing certain things. But now life is back to normal. Like nothing. I do everything I want to do. I even this Christmas swam to the bottom of a swimming pool and properly moved around and everything I wouldn't have dared last year. So yeah, it's all completely back to normal now. So 2022 to 2025, I started feeling normal.
So for people to hear this is super important, okay? Because they hear that. So first of all, we're talking about a year and a half of a timeline before you started feeling totally normal again. Mm-hmm. From the time that you, by the way, I always say this, day one of your recovery is the day you realize you can recover. So for those of you out there who've had symptoms for 20 years, if you've had them for 20 years, but you are only today realizing that actually you can recover, today is day one. So for you, day one was April or May 2023. Yeah. So we're talking about a year and a half to start feeling, to just be normal. But I want people to hear this because this is important. 2 weeks into this recovery, you were already starting to live life again. And life, wherever you are right now, those of you out there who are just at the beginning, it will rapidly change. You will rapidly come back to life. Generally speaking, it may not be perfect. It may not feel great. There may be still some limitations that you're going to have to work on. Mm-hmm. But that first bit of recovery actually is pretty dramatic, and it doesn't take that long. The tail is long. So that last bit where you're getting from, I can do most things, I'm still kind of uncomfortable, to I'm basically symptom free and I just live a normal life, that tail can take time. Mm-hmm. So when you hear someone's timeline like this, it's not, oh, I was miserable the entire year and a half and boom, one day the symptoms went away. It was really, oh, they were actually getting better and they got significantly better. My life got significantly better. And then I had to do some more work, especially it sounds like with anxiety and some of these worries and doubts. And as I did that, it finally tapered off.
Yes. I remember doing my first full week alone of school drop-offs and pickups. And that was probably in those 2 weeks after I found you. Actually, I think it might have been when I got back from Florida. And I remember being so proud of myself. I've done it. I've been outside by myself. And that was a win. That was amazing. So that was the start of it's getting better, but There are still other, things I'm not confident and not happy doing. But I had done that, and I had proved to myself that I could do it. And in that in itself was like, I'll try a little bit more tomorrow, and I'll try a little bit more the next day. And it just...
Remember when you started playing tennis again?
Oh my God. I mean, who knew? Who knew somebody who still felt dizzy could get on a tennis court and run around and feel completely fine? No dizziness on the tennis court.
I remember that.
It's crazy. And actually I'm pleased you brought that up, actually, because that really cemented to me that it's not a physical thing. How can it possibly be a physical thing if I am bending down, I'm looking up, I'm jumping, I'm spinning around, I'm running, and I had like zero symptoms. As soon as I walked off the court and I was talking to somebody on the street, the social anxiety kind of panic, I would get symptoms. When I was standing still, not moving, yeah, I can run around a tennis court and not feel anything. That was the real, I remember. Okay, it's finally sinking in. It took a while for me to believe, to get the doubts really away.
Yes. And it took both inner work and outer work. So I want people to hear this. They have to happen together. You have to do both. You can't just sit around feeling emotions and then expect something to change. But you also can't just do exposures and expect your bucket to empty. You have to do both. And so you were working on doubts being in the group. You were working with Pippa on emotions. And then the group also really helps pushing people to get back to life, because you see all these people doing these amazing things and you're like, well, if she can do that, I can do that too. Or if he can do that, he was worse off than me. I can do that.
Yeah.
But then it also starts to become sort of a positive spiral upwards. Because you're like, wait a second. I just did that and I didn't have any symptoms. Oh my gosh, this is evidence. This is the evidence I've been waiting for to show me that this is not something that's incurable.
Yeah. And also for me, it showed the dizziness would suddenly appear at random times for me. I do I feel anxious? Do I feel worried? Do I feel stressed? Why is it here now? And it was showing me that I needed to work on those things. Like, that's what I need to work on. I need to work on why do I feel anxious and worried when I'm talking to this person? Or, it's a lot of it came down to social anxiety for me, I think. And feeling judged and going back to that whole childhood thing. So it just our bodies are amazing. Like, how can I be feeling totally fine and walk down the street and then talk to somebody who I know and suddenly get dizzy? Because there's something underlying there that I need to work on, that I need to feel the emotions on. My body's telling me. It's just saying, hey, hi, this is still here. So I'm still working on it. It's still like, I don't know if there will, definitely not in the near future, but what am I trying to say? I don't think there will be a time in the near future where I don't have to keep working at it, because I know I need to keep working at it. And I enjoy working at it, and it feels good to feel emotions that I just haven't felt for many years. And it
to
feels...
take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, to take care of myself and look after myself properly and put myself first. It's another thing that I've learnt a lot. Because it's easy in motherhood not to put yourself first, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still working on that. My husband's very good at trying to get me to go out and play the tennis and, do all that. So I'm still working on it. And I enjoy working on it. And I'm pleased that I've learned how to work on it, because it feels good.
Very, very good. And for those of you listening who are newer or not, notice how Vicky's symptoms and the timing and frequency of her symptoms evolved. Many of you start with 24/7 symptoms. Vicky had 24/7 all day long, every day symptoms at the beginning. It's not, she probably wasn't able to necessarily notice, something's stressing me out. You were just dizzy all the time. But as you recover, not always, but many people start to notice these connections, just like you described.
Yeah.
So for those of you out there who don't notice those connections, you may not. That doesn't mean you can't recover. It doesn't mean you don't have neural circuit dizziness. But often it's sort of, again, at that tail end of recovery, when you start to see, there's a direct relationship here between my emotional well-being and my sense of power in a particular situation and the signals that my body is giving me. And that also, again, points you to exactly what you said, to what you need to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure we could dissect even more, but I was hoping we could end with any message of hope that you might like to give people who are starting out or struggling right now.
Oh, this is, yeah. I remember listening to these when I was right at the beginning and thinking, I'm never going to get there. I'm worse. I'm worse than these people. I'm never going to get there. You know, they're braver than me. They're stronger than me. That's what I thought a lot of. I was like, these people are proper grown-ups and they, you know, I don't know why. I was like, they're braver. They're stronger. They can push themselves. I remember thinking that a lot. So basically, if I can do it, anyone can do it. You just have to go at your own pace and don't compare to other people. You know, listen to the success stories and listen to all the amazing advice. But your timeline is yours, and it will be different from everybody's. And don't compare day to day. I made that mistake at the beginning, like hour by hour, day to day, and then it got to week. And then I would look at months, and I was like, actually, you know what? Look how much better I'm doing now than I was a month ago. Not yesterday, not a week ago, a month ago. And I would see those differences, and then those differences were so positive to me. And I'd be like, okay, fine. Next month, I didn't put pressure on myself to try anything. I just took it as it came at the beginning. If I felt like doing it and I felt like that day was a good day to try and go for a walk, then I would. If I didn't want to do it the next day, I didn't. So yeah, your timeline is your timeline. And you will get better. I promise. If I can do it, anyone can do it. The most scared person in the world. And you can do it. They can do it. And they have you to do it with. So keep watching those YouTube videos. They're amazing.
I'm so proud of you. I know you're the one who had to do all the work, so don't outsource it to me and to Pippa. Although, of course, we love being there for you and guiding you. But this is all you, my friend. That's all you.
Yeah, you and Pippa are very, very important people to a lot of people. Because none of us would be the success stories if it wasn't for you two. So I am eternally grateful. I cannot tell you. You are superheroes in my eyes and everybody else's eyes. So thank you very much. I have a life again. I can be a mother. There was a time where I didn't think I could be a mother. So thank you. There are not enough words, really.
You are so welcome. It is my privilege. It is my biggest privilege because from my perspective, you and the people watching this, you're the superheroes. You're the ones who have to live with this and pull yourselves out of it. I get to just tell you what to do. So
yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you.
And the highlight of last year was getting to meet you in person.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The best day ever.
It was the best day ever. We had a gathering I don't know that I've talked about this on YouTube at all, but we got to have that gathering with the Dizzy Brits. As I don't know, we may need to change that group name to the formerly Dizzy Brits now.
Yeah.
But what an amazing privilege. Thank you for the trust, and thank you for being so brave in doing this. And I have to say one more thing before we go. The arc of you discussing at the end social anxiety and fear of being judged and shyness. Here you are doing an interview for YouTube.
Don't say it too much. I'm panicked. Oh,
that's why I said this at the end. That's why I said it at the end.
Good. Yeah. But you know what? I was nervous coming into it. But as I've said all along, as soon as I get talking to you or Pippa, like nothing else matters. It's just you and your calming voice is very reassuring. So thank you for making it so easy for me.
Your voice is now going to be calming to other people. They're going to hear you talking.
So.
And Whitney, by the way, I just heard from her recently. She's doing great. She's doing awesome. So
she's lovely Whitney.
So 3 years from now, I'm going to interview someone whose life changed today, hearing your voice, and you're going to email me and say, I'm doing great too. And we're just going to go on like this, carrying it forward.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vicki. And thanks to all of you for watching, for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I put out new videos every week. We'll have lots more success stories, as well as more of these shorter videos where I explain what to do. You can also like the video, share it with people who you think will enjoy it. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, please follow the podcast. Please leave us a 5-star rating if you think we deserve it. These things really do help make sure I reach more people who need these messages of hope. All right, everyone, take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.